See Nature TV, news in your pocket.
Nigeria's quest for economic growth and sustainable development cannot be achieved by government funding alone. And one of the most effective strategies is through public-private partnership, where government and private investigators work together to deliver key projects. And that brings us to our topic of conversation this morning, which is on attracting direct foreign investment to Nigeria through effective PPP arrangements. And joining us this morning via Zoom to discuss this is Obi Anuonye. He's a legal practitioner, a chartered accountant. He's also a member of the Public-Private Partnership Practitioners Association of Nigeria. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
How would you assess Nigeria's current PPP framework, and do you think it has been effective when it comes to attracting foreign investors?
Thank you very much. A nice question. Foreign investors will always look at certain things before they come in to do investment in any country. In terms of PPP ecosystem in Nigeria, we have quite a robust legal, regulatory, and institutional framework that gives certainty to what will be done and what will not be done. Like my president, Dr. Kachi, said, foreign investors require and like certainty. They don't want to be taken unawares or ambushed. To that extent, Nigeria PPP ecosystem started in 2005 when the Infrastructure Concession Regulatory Commission Act 2005 was enacted. That followed in 2008 when the board of the commission created under this act was put in place by late President Shehu Yaradua. In 2009, there was high sensitization by ICRC around the country about the mission of ICRC and the importance of PPP, public-private partnership, as a way of procuring government public infrastructure. Also, in 2014, the ICRC came out with regulations that will enable the operationalization of the Act. So to this extent, we have quite a robust PPP infrastructure, PPP ecosystem that will attract foreign investors. One other thing the investors will look at is, do we have a pool of transaction advisors? Because you need people from diverse professions, lawyers, accountants, engineers, and so on and so forth, even communication experts, to advise all the parties in regard to any particular PPP transactions. So we have quite a robust system in place. As a matter of fact, recently we came up with Public-Private Partnership Practitioners Association of Nigeria, P3PAN, of which I am the second vice president. So when the investors know that there are people who are advocating for this, teaching about this, and of course, being ready to advise them in accordance with the domestic nuances of PPP in Nigeria, they are quite happy that we are ready. We are PPP ready.
Right. Now, you've mentioned that Nigeria has quite a robust PPP, plan or partnership arrangements. And you've also mentioned that foreign investors like the certainty or the stability that whatever they are investing in will, pull through and have a good result. But over the years, some PPP projects have been stalled due to several reasons. Now, do you think that this has impacted the way foreign investors, want to come in to do business or to invest in PPP in Nigeria?
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, they are likely to look at the operationalization of what we claim. If some of them have failed, it will affect them in their thinking that it's possible that their own will also fail. Unfortunately, some of the failures are not necessarily because of our weak legal framework. Just that sometimes some of the operators, they cut corners. Some of the operators cut corners. They do not go strictly by the ICRC Act. And if you don't do that, obviously you are likely to have yourself to blame. And unfortunately, it can also impact on us negatively. There are a few cases that happened where we lost or we would have lost heavily. But the fact of the matter is that in that case, it was not properly routed through the ICRC guidelines. So certainly, if they see that we have unsuccessful PPPs, they are likely to be discouraged. But of course, what we do now is to advocate for proper application of the principles of PPP. We need to tell the parties, especially the public sector, to eschew impunity. The stakeholder management is very, very important so that we don't have a record of failed PPP projects which can discourage foreign investors.
So in your opinion, what sectors would you say offer the most immediate opportunities for PPP-driven foreign investments?
Okay, transport is very, very key. That is to say, including road construction. You see that many of our roads are really not good. Some people describe our roads as death traps. Sometimes you are traveling from Lagos to the east, you may have to do 2 days on the road instead of some hours. Sometimes you are traveling from here to the north, you do 2 days instead of 1 day, and haulage vehicles have problems on the road as they convey goods from one place to another. So road transport infrastructure is very, very veritable an area for PPP engagement.
Now, investors often worry about things surrounding risk management, about government's inability to honor commitments in long-term projects. So how do you think that risks should be allocated between the public-private sectors to make Nigeria's PPP more bankable for the foreign investors?
Okay, thank you very much again. Yeah, in PPP, one of the characteristics is risk sharing, and we share risk according to capacity of the parties to bear the risks. For example, if the road will pass through a community and we know that the community boys will disturb, obviously, managing that risk should be done by the government because they have a power of coercion. They can do something about it. So if you leave it to the private sector, we are not likely to make any progress. Now, as to the product, the quality of the product that will be produced, that risk of poor quality will also reside with the private sector because they have the expertise, and that is actually why even government wants to engage them. So such a risk will be with the private sector. Everybody will be able to manage the risk allocated to him. And this is usually evident in effective PPP ecosystem when the objectives are outlined and everybody understands his role, his share of responsibilities in terms of actualizing the project.
What would you say are the main problems currently facing PPP projects in Nigeria, and what suggestions do you have to solve those problems or those challenges?
Thank you very much. One of the problems we have is understanding that PPP is an investment, and the private sector that comes into it must expect, and rightly so, returns on investment. But those who are interfacing for the government, majorly the civil servants, sometimes they think that it is the normal traditional procurement where they will call all the shots. It may be that they ask the PPP person to come and sign contract. In the normal procurement, you can ask the contractor to come and sign, and it comes to sign, you will fund it completely. But in PPP, it is the private sector that is bringing the fund to do the project. So you need to understand and agree with him line by line. All the things will be done. It's not something you can impose. But if civil servants do not understand it this way, they may advise against it, and their government will believe. Sometimes they are afraid that PPP is competing with them. No, it's not like that. We need to educate them to understand that when government has a need to provide something like 10 projects and the budget constraint will limit them to only 2, the other 8 can be done by private investors through PPP. So when they understand it like this challenge of blocking PPP will be solved.
Now, earlier on, you mentioned, transport as one of the sectors, one of the viable sectors for PPP. But what about other sectors like energy and infrastructure, or even digital economy? Where do those sectors stand when it comes to the public-private partnerships?
Thank you. They are very, very important. Energy is very, very key, because every economy runs on energy. And of course, government alone will not be able to provide such energy services to the people, or at the quality that is quite good. So PPP will be very, very important in the area of energy, communication, water, hygiene, and so on and so forth. So they are good candidates for PPP.
Now, speaking of funding and capital mobilization, access to affordable financing also remains a challenge, particularly for infrastructure projects in Nigeria. In your opinion, what would you say are the financing models that Nigeria can adopt to make PPPs attractive to foreign players?
Okay, thank you very much. What happens is that if we are able to put in place, as I have said, as we have put in place effective PPP ecosystem, the foreign investors will be able to reach out to development fund lenders who will come in to bring their funds. And they usually ask for certain conditions, if they are sure that the person they are lending to, who will do business with a Nigerian public sector, will be able to operate profitably and return their principal and interest at the appropriate time, will be able to advise on the type of funding that will be suitable for a particular type of project. Oftentimes here we think about commercial banks. Well, commercial banks don't have long-term loanable funds. In fact, part of their long-term loanable funds are just the owner's equity. Unfortunately, in banking business, owner's equity or shareholders fund is very small, and that is the only aspect of their money that is a long time. So when they don't loan for long-term PPP, people think that it is a challenge. No, there are other institutions locally that can supplement what the foreign investors will get from their end. For example, here, there are institutions that have long-term funds, like insurance company, like pension funds. Although some people are skeptical about using pension funds, but usually pension funds are usually used for long-term investments like we have in PPP. So to solve this problem, immediately we are putting our houses in order. It will be easy for foreign lenders to lend to their counterparts who are coming in to invest here. And our long-term fund holders here, like insurance company and pension funds, can also help out.
Exactly. Now, considering Nigeria's economic realities and how our economy is looking like at the moment, where do you see the biggest PPP opportunities for attracting foreign investment in, say, the next decade or the next 5 years?
Well, thank you very much. In the next 5 years, with the work our association is doing in terms of that is enlightenment, advocacy, we are thinking that in the next 5 years, PPP will be a mainstream procurement model. It will be able to encourage parties, public and private, to put investments in place in the areas of infrastructure, all types of infrastructure, and even services like health services. It looks like we do not have sufficient coverage by what the government and other private investors do. So it may be important for us in the next 5 years, if we pursue as aggressively as we are pursuing, and with what ICRC is doing, being aggressive in marketing PPP as an alternative to traditional procurement, will be able to achieve a lot in diverse sectors of the economy that are deserving of PPP model of procurement.
Now, one more question before I let you go. Many African countries are competing for the same pool of investors when it comes to this public-private partnership. So what would you say are the unique advantages that Nigeria has to offer when it to these investors to invest in Nigeria as opposed to other African countries?
Thank you very much. You are talking about the unique selling proposition of our PPP model. As a matter of fact, recently, one of the things that discourage foreign investors is the lengthy process of getting approval. And of course, approvals are usually done because of the amount involved. Recently, ICRC was able to get power authorization from the government to reduce the threshold, or rather to increase the threshold of the transactions that will go to Federal Executive Council. What it means now is that some transactions of 10 billion or 20 billion will not get to the Federal Executive Council. They will be handled at the ministerial level and the MDA levels. With the guidelines issued by ICRC, it will be quicker to take decisions on them. So it's possible that other countries in Africa have not done this. So if they have not done this, we are at a great advantage in attracting foreign investors. Even if the amount is not too much, by the time they test the waters using this diversified, the increased threshold, so that they don't need to wait for a long time to get approval from Federal Executive Council. It will give us a very big advantage. By the time other countries will realize it, the foreign investors would have been used to our own environment.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time, Obi and Onye, for the lovely conversation. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Have a good day.
And you too.
All right, and that is it on our conversation about attracting direct foreign investment to Nigeria through effective PPP arrangements. And the morning show will be back in a moment for another interesting conversation. Stay tuned.
Bright and early as the day breaks, as the newspaper headlines trail the stories that shape the day, we at Signature TV trail the headlines that trail the day. We interrogate the headlines. We analyze the stories that make the headlines.
Wyatt is overrated, and they even overrated themselves, and when people see it, they are insensitive of some Nigerian children who have never had what it was CBT.
With passion and emotion, we drive the conversation to change a narrative.
Let nobody be deceived by Nigerian high level of performing in agriculture export. We are still where we are.
Newspaper review on Signature TV every morning on Signature Morning, weekdays, and Signature New Day, weekends. Newspaper review on Signature TV. We do not just review the headlines, we make the headlines relevant to our daily lives.